The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Riv.
And we're trying a new way to broadcast to Facebook. I actually have it right here on my screen now.
Wow. You can actually watch it on
I can watch what people are commenting about.
Good. And I can do that on my phone. So we're going to clean up some stuff we had from the last show, but we went off on the never-ending saga in Washington that's still continuing now. The Donald took him to task, and then Pelosi threw a counterpunch, and
It's lots of fun, and it just keeps going.
Lots of fun, and nothing's getting done.
That's it.
That's it, as usual. Even the Democratic Party in that fiasco in Iowa, they're falling apart. They can't run a one-man parade, and now they're worried about a candidate. They're talking about resurrecting Hillary, John Kerry. They're desperate now. Two losers who ran for president already, and that's the best they can do because the party is in shambles. You got the left saying you got to have a radical left winger running for president, and the moderates in the party, because there are no conservatives in that party, moderates in that party are going, you can't elect them because you're going to lose the entire Midwest if you run a socialist.
Right, and they firmly believe that if Bernie got the nomination and he went head-to-head with Trump, that he would lose. And I think that's probably very possible because, again, if they lose the Midwest, those are a lot of key states.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
You don't want to lose those electoral college votes. That's
those
sure.
battleground states. Look, I understand there are a lot of people from this area who have never left this area and have never been to the Midwest. It's a different world. The two coasts are the bastions of
good and
liberal
evil.
of liberal craziness, and everybody in the middle thinks that the two coasts are elitists and mental cases. California is a land of fruits and nuts.
If you're down south, you're even worse of a conservative.
Exactly. And you're a redneck.
That's right. And some of them are still wearing sheets. So.
That's right. That's right. But that's what a lot of people don't realize. They look at this and they go, well, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is there's actually, I don't know if it's still there. My son went to college in Iowa. And when I drove cross country to visit him in Iowa, and at least into the Midwest, you've got to go through Ohio and Pennsylvania and Ohio, but when you hit Ohio and Indiana, I don't know which one it was because I forgot. There was actually a sign on one of the roads, a big giant billboard that said, "Welcome to America." Because the Heartland truly believes they are America.
Right.
They have, you look at their values are completely different. I mean, even the ones that are Democrats, they're not libtards. They're not libtards, and they're not going to elect the socialists. Most of them are involved in farming. If you go to Iowa and Indiana, a lot of farming out there. They're a old school, hard-working kind of blue-collar people who are not going to elect a communist, in their opinion, as the president of the United States. They do not like giving everybody everything for free because they've had to earn everything they got. It's kind of a throwback to America a long time ago in the Midwest, but it is a completely different mindset out there. And I very rarely agree with the Democratic Party on anything they do. But I have to agree that if Bernie Sanders runs, it's going to be a catastrophe. If he gets the nomination, it's going to be a catastrophe.
Well, let's just look at how different they are. In Minnesota, it's not called the Democratic Party. It's called the Democratic Farm Party. They're the Farm Party, and that's how they refer. Some of them refer to themselves as the Farm Party. It's not Democratic Party. It's a Democratic Farm Party, which I find very interesting, and that's because in Minnesota, a lot of people were farmers.
Yeah, and they're also extremely, even though most of the Democrats are pro-choice, and the progressives are all pro-choice. When you look at the Midwest, it's a Bible Belt.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the election, the second election for George Bush was decided in Ohio, and it wasn't decided on anything that was really a major issue. It was decided on abortion. Mm-hmm. Because I've still got the article somewhere that the Republican Party, in every single church in Ohio, the sermon was about pro-life versus pro-choice. They sent out over 1 million flyers the weekend before the election about it. They saturated Ohio. And if you remember correctly, Bush won by a very narrow margin. And that was the difference in that election in Ohio. So even though those people are fundamentally, a lot of them were basically Democrats, but they're a different kind of Democrat. They're more faith-based out there, and things can be decided on issues that some people say, okay, it's an issue, but it's not one of the major issues, the economy, the influx of drugs and stuff. No, to them, you know, the pro-life, pro-choice is a major issue. And that's the thing about this country. People don't realize when you target your ads, you look at the demographic and what their hot button issues are. And it's a different, they're different people out there. And I spent a lot of time in the Midwest. My son went to school out there for a long time, and I used to go out there quite often and visit. And yeah, it's a different world. You know, I go on a West Coast. It's just like the West Coast is kind of like the East Coast with all kinds of with a few more crazies running around because it's nice and warm all the time. But yeah, it's you know, this is getting to be really fun because it's not a Democrat versus Republican election now. We're looking at the total chaos in the Democratic Party to see if they can pull their party together, which I think it's really hard based on the fact that they are so diametrically opposed in their platforms. And that's the other question, CJ, being political observers that we are.
Pundits.
Yeah, pundits. Yeah, pseudo pundits or whatever. I'm gonna find it hard to believe if they do come up with a moderate candidate, how they can get a platform that will still keep well, that's their verbiage, progressive. I call them loonies, commies, socialists. I don't know how they're going to come up with a platform that's going to satisfy both parts of that party, the moderate and the progressive.
I mean, they've already got an issue, and I mean, I was surprised I didn't see it in Iowa, but Mayor Pete did so well in Iowa, and I was very surprised. Him being a self-proclaimed, out of the closet, married gay man, and it just was very interesting to see that Iowa received him so well, as though they were progressives. So, and that was just very interesting. Although Bernie Sanders is still claiming he won because he got 2,000 or 6,000 more votes, I mean, he's still got 11 electoral delegates, and so did Buttigieg. But
yeah, see, I think that was kind of a paradox, because I agree that they accepted him and his lifestyle, and the Midwest is very faith oriented, but I think they also really welcomed him because he's a moderate.
Right.
By their standards, and I think that's what's happened. You're going to see a lot of these Democratic primaries where there's a tremendous split in attitudes because the progressives want everything for free, and they love Bernie, and it doesn't matter that he doesn't know how much anything he. And, at least I got to give Bernie credit. I mean, he's not like Warren, who pretends she knows how to pay for the stuff. Bernie said on national TV, I have no idea how much it costs.
Right.
And neither do you. Well, that's not really a good answer to me because if I go to the bank and want a loan and I say, well, I don't know, just keep giving me money because I have no idea how much this is.
Oh, you mean like the city of Fall River?
Yeah, like the city of Fall River, exactly. They're not going to give me a loan, but it's going to be fascinating. The Democratic primary and the Democratic convention, I think, is going to be some of the best TV watching politically we've had in a long, long time.
And don't forget, tonight you've got another debate.
Oh, yeah.
The last debate before the New Hampshire primaries.
Yeah, and why a few of these people that got 1% or less or even on the stage
still going,
is beyond
I know.
me.
Yeah, that's,
it's
that's ridiculous.
I mean, that's just crazy. But hey, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, Bloomberg has no percentage.
That's right.
He's just got money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what they say, money talks and BS walks.
I know. Well, if you're our president, he says that word.
That's right. Well, we say it too occasionally, but we're trying to be a little filtered. Oh, so we got a ton of stuff here from the last show because we got off on a national scene. But the national scene is really interesting because the same old, same old. And before I get to this one that we had ready for the last show, I will say that there was a sighting of the mayor formerly known as Jazel yesterday. I got a phone call from one of our viewers and conduits and spies or whatever you want to call them, or leakers or whistleblowers. Jazel was spotted in a downtown restaurant, and he was there for over an hour. They even clocked him. So, hey, but we get this kind of information. He was spotted on North Main Street at a restaurant, and he had his beard, as we said, because first question I asked, does he still have his beard? Yes, he does. So for all you Jazel watchers, we can't call him Jazel, that's right, Jay, or the mayor formerly known as Jazel. He still has his beard.
Did he leave a big tip? I mean, the
I don't know if he left any
there.
tip. I think he tried to strong arm them for the bill. I don't know. Oh, that's.
I want to know how he's paying the bill. He doesn't have any income coming in.
I don't know.
Unless he's collecting unemployment.
So with that little segue, the feds want Carrera and Andrade tied together in a corruption case. In the government's response to Andrade's request for a separate trial, federal prosecutors argue that Carrera and Andrade jointly ran a corrupt administration and, quote, conspired together in several related schemes, unquote. So looks like the plea deal went out the window, and they're going to try them. Well, at least the prosecution says they do not want to separate the trials. So,
well, I hope she likes orange.
Orange is the new black. let's.
I hope she's liking orange because I'm telling you, she's going to be wearing a lot of that.
And then our other one from one of the last ones was the House bill gives the CCC, and in case you don't know what that is, that'll become very known.
The Cannabis Control Commission.
The Cannabis Control Commission, power over host agreements. Well, I mean, they probably should have done that in the first place. Since the commission was the one who drafted all the rules. I mean, obviously.
And now we know why, though. And why is it going to them? Because of Fall River.
That's right, because of Jazel. And the allegations against him. We're not going to say he's guilty because we can't do that, because he's entitled to due process.
Yeah, but you notice a lot of his supporters are very quiet now? You don't hear much from them anymore.
No.
You don't hear much from them anymore.
No. And then we have the over coffee. Fall River residents share concerns with Mayor Coogan. Well, I hope he listens. It says that people are really genuine, and I love the back and forth and blah, blah, blah. And of course, they're talking about taxes, and he tried not to raise his rent on good people. He's talking about it. Yeah, but they don't care. They're going to raise it. I mean, look, we talk about money, and we get back to our old thing that you can't, our budget is a sham. We have people who have made million dollar mistakes on a regular basis and is still around. So, and Fall River police officers facing lawsuit in man's stun gun death. Civil rights lawsuit was filed in federal court in Boston.
The federal courthouse must be getting sick and tired of Fall River.
Well, they've been sick and tired for a long. Was it what, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago that the judge in Boston said, "I'm sick of seeing Fall River up here. They never obey any laws." It's like the federal judge actually said he was sick and tired of seeing Fall River in a courtroom. But hey, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Due process will take its course.
I guess 3 officers are were named, as well as the Fall River Police Department. And it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out, because stun guns, if you remember, or tasers, or whatever name you want to use for them, were declared to be the safest way of subduing perpetrators.
Yeah, unless the guy's got a heart condition.
Obviously.
Or something. I don't know what this, I'm just saying off the top, but hitting somebody with electric voltage is not, obviously it might be safer than hitting them with a bullet, because, they're not trained, they're not Annie Oakley or Wild Bill Hickok. They're trained basically to shoot center mass. So if you hit somebody in center mass, you're probably going to kill them or really hurt them badly. And I guess they figured stun guns, but I guess over the course of the years, they've had some incidents with stun guns. So.
Yeah, there's been several major incidents with them.
And I don't know the specifics of this case, because it isn't...
it's not specific in the story.
Yeah, because 3 officers are being charged, but I don't think 3 people tasered them.
I don't think so either. But the thing that's going to be interesting on this is the outcome of this lawsuit could actually change on whether or not the city, continues using stun guns or tasers. I don't think they will change their method, but they may change, the implementation of it in the future. So
Yeah. Well,
it's going to be interesting to see. But I'll take another 120, please.
well, yeah, this could end up a pretty complicated case, because,
Right.
as I said, if you look at it on face value, stun guns probably 99% of the time are the better option, because you get somebody under control without having to put a bullet in them.
Right.
And yet there are, as I don't have to tell you, you know it better than I do, that there are medical conditions which, a bolt of high voltage running through your body.
You got a pacemaker, man. You better be careful.
Is not really good for you.
Right. You got a pacemaker. Be careful.
And these are. But then what are we going to do? You can't. The police. I really feel. I sympathize with the plight they're in. These men are in harm's way, and women are in harm's way. And they if they use their baton, they're in trouble for using their baton. That's cruel and unusual. Now, if they shoot somebody, even if the guy's coming at them with a knife, there's all kinds of Monday morning quarterbacking. Now, if you use a taser or a stun gun or whatever you want to call it, they're in trouble for this. So I don't know what they expect the police officers to do when they perceive their life is in jeopardy. They can't have, a bottle of bubbles and blow bubbles at the perpetrator. That's not going to work.
They got to get him a rubber BB gun.
That's why, unfortunately, these are situations where there's a very, very high probability of an injury to the police officer, And that's why each case, as far as I'm concerned, has to be looked at individually.
Of course, of course.
Because to make these, again, we get with the blanket laws. We're going to eliminate stun guns or some shit. We're going to eliminate this. We're going to eliminate that. We're going to legislate against gun crime. None of this stuff works. It has to be looked upon. It has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. Because, like you said, if they hit somebody with a stun gun, because rather than shoot him, how are they supposed to know if he's got a pacemaker?
Right, exactly.
I mean, he doesn't like wear a big giant, thing on his forehead that says, I have a pacemaker.
Stop, don't shoot, I got a pacemaker.
That's right. Now, we've cleaned up that stuff, but now we can get to one of my favorites.
Uh-oh.
The undocumented immigrant driver's license bill gets approval from the Massachusetts Transportation Committee. Oy vey. It's just right on the heels of me watching the governor of New York complaining about, because New York is giving, and number one, I get furious every time I see undocumented. That's a euphemism. It's an illegal immigrant. They're violating the law. And Cuomo went on TV and said that the federal government is violating the law when he's violating them. They're lucky they got Trump for a president. If I was president, I would have arrested the governor of New York State. I would have taken him out in handcuffs. I would have taken him to federal court, and I would have charged him with failing to comply with the federal laws and harboring and aiding and abetting criminals, illegal aliens. And let him plead that the state has a sovereign right to harbor criminals. We're going back to the Middle Ages where they could run into a church and get sanctuary. I'd drag them into court. I'd drag them all into court. Every time they do something like this, you're going to tell me that ICE agents and the government and illegals who have just murdered, that other one that just murdered the co-ed, just admitted he was guilty. That they can pass laws that fly in the face of not only the safety of the American public, but fly in the face of our law. It's illegal. I don't care what you say. If I start calling murderers troubled children, do we let them off? I can come up with a euphemism for them. We changed it from illegal immigrants because they are illegal. They didn't come in here through the process. If I start calling murderers and rapists troubled children, I guess we can't prosecute them. We should have sanctuary cities for murderers and rapists, too. This is absurd. So the license bill moves forward, and the people, and listen to this BS in the other article. Did you see this other one?
Yes, I saw both of them.
They said lawmakers who support it argue that the measure would improve safety by requiring undocumented, again with the undocumented, seeking licenses to take vision and on-the-road safety tests. Really? Really? And then they're going to have to go out and get licenses and drive illegally in a nation where they're not even legal residents. And what are they going to do when they kill somebody with their motor vehicle? Safety. You're telling me that because they have to take an eye test and a road test, I want to see the statistics. I mean, we got so many lunatic drivers that are citizens. You're not going to tell me this is a major safety issue. This is just an excuse to give people who are criminals, and many of whom are violent criminals, their licenses. And I have to say, very rarely do I agree with Charlie Baker. But Charlie Baker is opposed to this, and the Republicans in the state say that the Democrats are out of control. They're always out of control. They don't want any borders, but they're not working on They're not working on anything.
And let's be realistic. This is an election year. That's why this is out. That's why this is coming out now. And, you know, I personally don't know what Carol Fiola's position is on this, but based upon, because, you know, you're known by the company you keep. Based upon the company she's keeping yesterday, with a lot of people talking about immigration up at the State House, and I know one particular activist is up there who wants this bill passed, I have to assume she's a supporter of this bill. And, you know, if Alan Sylvia and Paul Schmidt are supporters of this bill too, we have a problem. And maybe the people of Fall River should start looking at this saying, hey, you know, if you're going to keep doing these libtard propositions, maybe it's time that we take our votes and give them to some other libtard. Or maybe vote for a Republican. It's getting to be crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah, we just got something about the ICE getting it, but you see, I mean, it's all propaganda, and the media uses propaganda. So I decided to watch a TV show yesterday, and I lasted 5 seconds. The new TV show about the first female police chief.
Tommy, I watched it last night.
Well, I don't know how you could watch it.
I got nauseated.
When it opened up with the LA police arguing with ICE and trying to stop them from arresting an illegal.
Right.
That's the end of that, of me watching that show.
Yeah.
Because how...
But you have to remember, California is a sanctuary state.
Well, therein lies the problem with me in that show.
Right.
Because, you know, they say Donald Trump is too hard on him. They're lucky somebody that has my philosophy. My philosophy is the law is the law. It's like in the military. One guy wears a field jacket. The law is the law. These people are illegals. You can't create a law. As a matter of fact, there is case law on that. You cannot create a law that is more lenient than a federal law.
Correct.
But they have.
Right.
And nobody's been jailed.
Well, what's interesting...
Because you know and I know, CJ, that if the feds pass a law, you can pass a law that's more stringent. If the feds say the speed limit is 65, the maximum speed limit, and you want to pass it that says it's 55, you can pass that law.
That's right.
But you can't pass a law that says the speed limit is 70. You can't do it.
Unless you want to give up your federal
Unless you want to
fund.
give up your federal funds.
Right. And, you know, we got a question on if
I know.
illegals get licenses, ICE agents get their addresses. No.
Absolutely not.
Nope, there's a provision in the bill which restricts that information, which I find very interesting because under 6610, that's public record information. So how can they decide that for illegals it's not public, but for everyone else it's public?
Yeah, and I thought the law enforcement agencies in this country were there to protect the people of this country, not to actually inhibit other law enforcement agencies from taking illegals and violent illegals into custody. So, like I said, I don't know how these things haven't gone to court. They think Donald's been too busy fighting off Pelosi, you know, and I would really like to see some of these people be charged federally. Some of these high politicians, but again, the politicians don't have any, like in Fall River, there's no accountability. They can do whatever they want. They can charge things on a credit card, and even though that's illegal because they have no documentation that it was job related, they still get the money and nobody investigates. So now you got a governor violating the law. Sanctuary cities violate our federal laws. And, you know, if I was the president, I'd lock them all up.
I've got a solution for it.
I'd go to Boston and lock the mayor of Boston up. He wanted to make it a sanctuary city? Okay. The first person that you aid and abet in evading federal law enforcement agencies, I'll put you in jail.
I got an easier way of solving this issue. When they declare themselves a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state, cut off all federal dollars.
Well, we said that a long time ago.
Cut off all federal dollars. And you want to see how fast they turn around?
Yeah, but they can't do that. You know why, CJ? You just said it about 2 minutes ago. It's an election year. Nobody's jeopardizing votes in any community by cutting off their federal money right now. It's going to rain money because it's an election year.
This is true. Oh, well. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.
Remember,
We'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend and stay angry.
Next time you get hit by an illegal.